Hey, good evening. We are live with the one and only Doug Wing is in the house. What's happening, brother?
Ken, how are you?
I'm good. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you
Okay,
perfectly.
I'm just going over to share this out with some friends of mine on X real quick. Um, but hey, man, I got to let everybody know that I begged you to do this live stream tonight from the man cave. Um, okay, I didn't beg, but I'm like, dude, I think everybody would love. Doug is so um, humble and just a good dude, and he's got this amazing car collection. If you can't tell, I'll give you full screen here in a second. But so Doug has this amazing car collection, and I just think it'd be cool for everybody to see it. So here we are. Everybody's getting ready to see it. But we're also here to talk about the new book that you have coming out in March the 5th,
Hmm.
and that book about why you decided to do another book.
This might be a side right here. Yeah, had a few more stories from my life, and so we decided, hey, well, let's do another one. This book is fiction, but most of the stories in the book are my stories, and but we've changed the names. Um, the
Yeah.
one, the book, The Giver, we had a family by the name of Ward, Ward, and this one, Giving Hearts, will have a different brother to the Ward family. So it'll be a brother, but with my stories um, in the book. So I'm excited. Yeah, this will be a good one. I don't know if it'll be my last. You and I have talked about that, and we don't know yet.
Yeah.
But this will be number three. So we're gonna do it on March 5th.
So you what was it?
Frame you gave me with the first book in frame, and it said March 5th, 2020,
My gosh.
and then the Giver came out, after that later that year because we switched with a different publisher,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
we did that, yeah, and it's been a lot of fun, to write these books. I never imagined I'd be doing books. I wasn't the smartest kid in school, but it's been a lot of fun to do this and to share some of my stories and to go from there. Yeah. Hey, Lynn
Thank
Saran.
Hey Lynn, she shared it. Thank you so much for sharing it. So, just so everybody knows, I now hold the record of Doug being, I'm the only one that's ever gotten him to do a live stream from the man cave. I'm kidding.
Yeah, we had to
I,
scramble. We had to scramble today,
yeah, you did.
but we made it.
Um, I know, because at the last minute I changed it up on Doug, and I'm like, dude, do it from the man cave. So, so Doug, talk a little bit about, look, you've been incredibly successful. You received really, really good training, for that from your dad. For those that don't know, Doug is the former owner of Little Giant Ladder Company. Your dad started it, and then you and your brother took over,
Hmm.
um, and then you sold it a handful of years ago. Um, talk about some of the, with the book especially, that's coming out. I mean, the book is all about giving, and you are one of the most giving, caring people that I've ever known in my entire life, and I mean that. You, I think, when did we meet? 2018, maybe 19, 2020,
Yeah,
twenty
18,
nineteen,
something like that,
18.
or yeah, maybe 18 or 19. It's been a while.
It's been a while, and you quickly became one of my favorite people, and I think that, and by the way, everybody watching, please, please, please share this out. But which is a form of giving. But you've been very, very giving, and there's so many stories in your books about how your dad taught you that. Like, he literally taught you to be a giving person.
Mm.
And now it's just like second nature to you. So talk a little bit about some of the giving stories, that are, because why not?
Well, the book starts off with Evan Ward and his wife Mary. They're probably about 25, 26 years old, and they already have 4 kids of their own. And so Evan, which in this story is, it's a story about my dad and mom, and they are, they've got 4 kids. They're in their mid 20s. My dad's working 2 jobs and going to school to be an engineer, and get the phone call from uh, another state that says, let me get back in here, but another state that says, hey, your brother's been killed in a construction accident. And at that time, my uncle's wife kind of disappeared and just took off. And so I had 3 cousins that were, my gosh, I'm trying to think how old they were. I think the oldest was maybe 7 or 8, maybe. I can't remember exactly. I'd have to think about that for a second. But I've got 3 of my cousins, including two of them that were twins, and there was no place for these kids to go. The state was going to, send them out for adoption, break up that little family, and my mom and dad said, no, we can't do this. Somebody's got to raise these kids. They traumatized by their dad's death, and then
Yeah.
his. I don't know if it was his wife was the. I don't think she. I think she wasn't the mother. I'm not sure. Maybe she was, but anyway, so they were basically alone, and so my parents took them in, and they had 7 kids overnight. And again,
Yeah.
and they were 25, 26 years old. Now, just imagine that, trying to feed 7 kids. And my dad, again, didn't have a college degree. He was working 2 jobs, and so that a lot of the book focuses on this story of how they did that. The first, several chapters talk about this. And actually, when I was talking to my sister, she kind of helped with this story on the book because she knew more about it than I did. My dad didn't want to do it, and my mom's the one that says, "No, we're doing this. We have to do this."
With the kids, you mean?
Kids, yeah, they have to. They can't
Yeah.
they can't go into foster care and then have a chance of them getting split up and going into different homes like that. So yeah,
Right.
so we talk about this book talks about the difficulties that they face trying to make ends meet. And my dad ended up dropping out of school and just making it work, and doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And so that's the very first part of the book, is they take on these 3 extra kids. And I mean, they were like 7 kids. They were all, I believe, they were all under the age of like 9.
Yeah.
My sister Heidi was. There's 2 Heidi Wings now, my sister and my
Oh,
wife.
that's right.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so my sister was just probably maybe 8, 9 months old, and then all the way up, to to Tina, who was a year older, and then I was a year older, and then
Wow.
the two cousins and my brother were 2.5 years older, and then Dennis was the oldest, and he was another year older. So can you imagine? Like,
No,
it's crazy.
dude.
Yeah. And so,
So I want to talk though. I want you to talk a little bit about, your dad, and the short story about your dad is he started this ladder company because of a design he saw in Germany of a ladder, and he worked out details with all that, but he was selling them across the U.S., carrying them around in the back of a station wagon or something, right? Or a truck or something.
yeah, we had to have a station wagon because that was back in the
Right.
days when there weren't seat belts. I mean,
Right.
we had like 3 rows, right? In the back row, you looked, when you're sitting in the back row, you were facing out towards the
Yeah.
back. And
Yeah.
then you could put two there, and then there was two other benches.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what happened is my dad decided, man, I can't. He worked in the stockyards at night, and then he cleaned buildings and did other
Jeez.
odds and end jobs. And then he decided, well, I've got to find a job that I can make a lot of money and that I can, do well in. And that was in sales. And so my dad got involved in sales, started selling life insurance. And in a very short time, he became successful. He became, I would say, in the top 1% of this company in Utah as far as selling life insurance. And then since my mom was from Germany and my dad spoke German, they said, hey, we're going to open up an office in Germany. And since you speak German, you and another gentleman are going to be running this office. And so my dad went over there, and they were doing quite well. They were doing a lot of business with the military,
Yeah.
insurance policies to soldiers and stuff. And then my dad's partner, his name was Richard Miner. He saw the ladder. I think it was at some kind of a home show in Germany or something. He saw it, met the guy that invented it, and he saw my dad and said, this partner saw my dad and said, hey, we've got to go look at this ladder. And my dad's like, hey, Richard, we're selling insurance. I don't want to see a ladder. I don't have interest in it. And he kept bothering him about it, kept talking to him about it. And so finally he went and saw the ladder, and it was the original design of the little giant. It was pretty crude, but it worked well, and it just barely came out. And so my dad got excited about it and went home and told my mom, I'm going to quit the insurance business. And she's like, well, how are we going to survive? And he's like, we'll survive. We've always survived. And so worked out a deal on licensing with this German house painter that invented the ladder. His name was Walter. And my dad bought a container full of them, and with Richard, who's his partner. And
Wow.
they ship it over. Well, they shipped one over before. You've heard this story. My dad went and pre-sold that whole container, and he made one mistake, and the mistake is that he didn't take any orders or take any money down. And then when he got the ladders over from Germany and went to deliver them and get the money, he said everybody made an excuse. Oh, my son's in prison, or my brother,
Jeez.
everybody said no. All of them said not one of them gave him the money and took the ladder. So he had to resell them all again. And he went door to door, business to business, and loaded up the station wagon and drove around and did it.
But and he turned it into from there, a multi-million-dollar company. But then, as things progressed, there was a moment. And by the way, I forgot to change the title. It's no longer Thanksgiving. The last time you and I did this, I said Happy Thanksgiving or something. It says that again tonight. So, but hey, every day is a good day to be thankful. So happy Thanksgiving to
Absolutely.
everybody.
Yeah, that's true.
Um, but I think that you know there was a point, and I don't remember exactly what it was, but there was a point where it was right before the infomercial started, that things weren't going very well, were they? Or I don't remember. I think.
Yeah, a lot of ups and downs. The company was doing okay, just kind of doing its thing, doing some trade shows and state
Yeah.
fairs, a few distributors, but eventually what happened is our patents expired, and there was a company that produced them in China for half the price. Now imagine this, all of a sudden you're doing great, and another company out of Asia comes in and knocks you off.
Wow.
Probably knew exactly, obviously when our patents were going to expire, and knocked us off at half the price. And I mean, there were a lot of people at Little Giant that were very, very nervous, and
Wow.
I was one of them. But my dad kept his cool, and he's like, "Yeah, we'll figure this out. We've always made it. We're gonna keep making it." And so one of the things that had really helped us was our quality. Everybody that came and knocked us off at half price, there was a reason, and for that, and the reason was poor quality, right? Thinner
Yep.
material, um, poor welds, and different things like that that really led to a lot of these guys, having some issues coming over here, and people got hurt. But we did have to do something to kind of get the company started again, and that's when we decided to do this infomercial. And literally, we did not have the money at that time. It cost about $1 million to do an infomercial, and my dad says, "Okay, I'm willing to mortgage my farm." He had about a 50, 60 acre farm, and he says, "But I want the money back in 6 months, and I'm going to take $10 on every ladder that you sell." And he was on the infomercial. My dad was
Yeah.
with a couple of people from Home Time in the very beginning. It was those two guys, Robin Hartle, Dean and Robin from Home Time, and then
Yeah.
later went to Richard Karn. But what happened is it was wildly successful, and the company at that time, we were only producing about 400 ladders a day on one shift. And after this infomercial, uh, we went from producing 7,000 to producing 7,000 a day, 3 shifts, 24 hours a day, 6 days a week. So that was another lesson right there, is
Yeah.
how are we going to do this? How are we going to fund this? How are we going to produce all these and hire people? But we pulled it off, and
But you went from, what was it you were doing in production? You were doing two shifts a day,
one,
right?
one, yeah,
Oh, one shift a day,
400 ladders a day to 3 shifts, 24 hours a day, 6 days a week, to
making how many ladders a day?
7,000.
That's insane. Like that's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, it was pretty interesting. The nice thing is that we were able to do all this with no debt, and the company really grew, and we did some smart things. We invested in other technologies and developed a new light ladder, and went
Yeah.
into different verticals and really grew the company. We learned from our mistakes that first time, where we were kind of just in this one slot,
Yeah.
and the company came off a lot stronger, and then the company continued to grow again. But yeah, there were several kind of scary moments in the beginning, but uh, I think a lot of people nowadays, a lot of these younger people, they think that companies are just going to go crazy right at the beginning, and some do, but
Yeah.
ours, I worked there for 45 plus years. I was 10 years old, and
Yeah.
it does, it takes a while to do this. You just didn't
It
have.
does. And how, think about it like this, because I had the great honor, you arranged a tour of the Little Giant ladder facility, the factory.
Mhm.
And you took my wife and I through on a tour with some other really important people and impressive people. And quite honestly, it's one of the most impressive things I've ever seen. And I've been in a lot of manufacturing facilities, but it's incredible. Like, it just and to think that, your dad was selling life insurance
Mm.
and just saw this design of this ladder in Germany and decided, I think that would be a good a good business to get into. Like, what? That's crazy. Like, it takes, and then he started selling them. You told stories about him sleeping on top of the ladders in the back of his station wagon, driving around the U.S. trying to sell these ladders. And I mean, there's just so many amazing stories. But my favorite story, my favorite part of what your dad did was he would secretly just help people.
Hmm.
There's my buddy Cody. He said, "Nice collection. Which one can I borrow?"
Well,
there's my buddy Lolo. She's awesome. Good evening, Lolo. So, but one of, and we'll talk about the cars here in a second. That's not actually a Ford GT. That's a model car right there next to him. I'm kidding. It's really a Ford GT. But your dad he had the guy that worked for him that rode around with him, and he would just randomly stop and point at somebody's house and, what do you notice about that house? And, you told the story about the house needing a new roof, and your dad hands the guy an envelope of cash and or whatever. And it's just, he was such a giving guy, and you're like that. Like, I mean, I don't think you drive around looking for roofs to replace, but maybe you do, and I just don't know about it. But that's the craziest part, is I think that people don't understand where that success really came from. It came from that determination, that drive, and especially the drive to help other people. And that's what your books are all about. Want to read something that's actually going to teach you success, like where real success comes from, not just the stuff out there on the internet and everything else, but this is real true success, because Little Giant Ladders became the third largest ladder company in the world. So
yeah, yeah.
pretty impressive.
I think my dad really learned how to be a giver from his parents. You know, even though they weren't, my grandma and grandpa weren't wealthy, but my grandmother, I remember, would uh, help a lot of the neighbors, and there were homeless guys that would come around when homeless guys were not, scary or anything. They would just come over and knock on the door and ask for some food or something, and my grandma would help them and put them to work, but she would always feed them and take care of them. But
Yeah.
my grandmother's neighbor was crippled, and I remember my grandma would go over there every night and bathe her and put her to bed and everything. And then my grandpa, he grew up as a foreman on the railroad, and in his spare time he had a little farm of about 11, 12 acres, and he grew like so many fruits and vegetables. And it's just amazing what he would do in his spare time. I don't know how he did it, but he would go around in the evening in Springville, Utah, where I grew up, and he would share his fruits and vegetables with widows and people who he knew were hurting. And so I think that's really where my dad learned to be
Yeah.
that way. And yeah, he always said everything that I've been blessed with is not really mine, but I'm going to be held accountable for the way that I use these resources and the things that I was blessed with. And so he would look for people to help, and he was just so good, and my mom was good
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
They would both do it, but the nice thing about him was that I didn't find out about a lot of these things. I knew he did some things, but I didn't find out about a lot of these things until he passed away. And then, as when we had his funeral and viewing and those types of things, and then I went around and interviewed people for the
I,
book. That's when I got a lot of people said, "Hey, you got to hear this story," and that type of thing.
and the I know that the books are absolutely filled with, I mean, they're filled with these stories.
Mm.
The woman that was coming through the reception line at your dad's viewing, and you found out that he had bought her a house. He bought
Yeah,
her a house because she was home. Like, that's what I'm talking about, is like, it's incredible that, and you didn't even know it until that moment, right?
exactly. Yeah, a little older lady walked up and said, "Hey, I was lost my home, and And this is a good question. We can hit that next. But yeah, and said, hey, your dad took care of me, bought me a home, and so I wouldn't be homeless. And we didn't know anything about it. It was pretty neat.
Yeah. Brian Hess says, Doug, what role has faith played in your view on giving? It has played a significant role in my journey, and I'm curious how it has influenced you.
That's a great question, Brian. I think Brian knows that because we've talked about some of the Steelers who played at BYU. Of
Yeah.
course, I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and our church is very, very big in humanitarian efforts.
Yeah.
Uh, and I think last year the church did over $1 billion in humanitarian relief in different countries and with different
Yeah.
charities and stuff like that. And so, yeah, growing up with what our church did, and that we did a lot of things. We donated time on church farms, and on those church farms, they produce food and vegetables. And in fact, the church is actually the largest landowner in Florida right now. They've got I think one of the largest cattle ranches in the nation down
Wow.
just outside of Orlando. And so with the things that they produce, we're able to feed a lot of people that are hungry and help homeless people and different things like that when they have natural disasters. I remember when we had that big tsunami several years ago. Um, Another great story about my dad, which was incredible. They had this huge tsunami, and we did a bunch of relief and raised money for the victims. And I remember my dad had a beautiful, beautiful Porsche Carrera GT that I think those are going for close to $2 million now. And he just took the keys, and handed it to the church and said, I know you guys sell things, and I'm donating this in kind to you, and I want you to take all the money and the relief and help the people that have been affected by this tsunami. So yeah, great mom and dad. And so those
Yeah.
things really, I think, influenced me as well.
I,
Then
what
also,
about,
yeah,
go ahead. Sorry.
just I mean the service that we do. I when I was 19, I went on a mission for 2 years, and helped. We went door to door and talked about what our church believes in,
Yeah.
and about Jesus Christ. And then also we helped do service as well. Every week we would do
Yeah.
service and different things like that, help people and do yard work and all kinds of stuff. So coach
Yeah.
coach some soccer teams or whatever. So
When I had COVID um in 2021, and I mean I was down. I'm I had double pneumonia, and I ended up in the hospital with an oxygen level less than 70. And I vaguely remember even driving myself to the hospital. Um, my wife and I were going to a church, and we didn't hear from the church. Nobody at all. Not one single message came. Nobody came to help from our church. And I'm not judging them. It just, they didn't help. They didn't show up. You heard about it because you and I have been best of friends for a while, and um, you made, I don't know what you did. To be honest, I have no idea what you did, but you made a phone call, and before I knew it, there's people from the LDS church, which was actually like a block from our house. Remember that? And the bishop of the church and his wife are showing up with 3 meals a day, like dropping them off on my front porch, and I'm still in the hospital. They're helping out my wife and my kids, and then I get out of the hospital, and they're helping out even more. And the bishop calls, and I'm not even an LDS church member. And I was like, dude, I remember calling you going, look, bro, you're not, this isn't going to work. You're not recruiting me like this. And you're like, would you settle down? That's not why we do it. And I was like, are you sure about, but it's not like, you just are giving, loving, caring people, man. And it's something, it's something that I think is incredible about you and your faith, man. I think it's incredible. Absolutely incredible. Look, Brian says I have a brand new temple I look through the woods behind my house. That's awesome. Yeah.
I heard about that in Pittsburgh. I heard it's really turned out to be nice.
Yeah.
Well, close there to his house.
So, so you have these books. Everybody, look, go to dougwing.com. You can see all the books from there. We have several, halwing.com, giantsuccess.com, but Doug Wing is where I think all of them are linked right now. Fill out a form on there to be notified when this thing launches. But you know, one of the things that I was just thinking about a minute ago was your dad, which I wish I would have known your father. I really wish I would. You're so blessed to have been raised by such an amazing human being. Even though he was a little bit crazy, he was from the stories I've heard from you about the motorcycles and all the stuff. But
Oh
you
yeah.
know, there's a story in Giant Success, and I believe it's all, of a man that was working at a company. There was an accident. He ended up losing half of his leg, and in this accident at work, and your dad heard about it, showed up at the hospital, and somehow got through security by saying he was his brother, and your dad went in and washed blood off of the guy's face and off of his arms. And this is a man that owned, I don't know how many Rolls Royces or Bentleys he owned at the time of his death, but your dad was doing well in life, and he didn't need to go to the hospital and show up and wipe blood off of somebody that he barely even knew. But he did anyway. And um, and then gave him a job
Mm-hmm.
after that for the rest of his life, working life, which is just unbelievable. Like, absolutely. And there's a lot more to that story, but there are so many stories like this where your dad, like the one about the newlywed couple at the car dealership, like, that's like, what? Like, can I tell the story from my perspective? So your dad's there getting service done to one of his cars or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he overhears that this newlywed couple couldn't afford to buy a new car, but they needed one, like, bad. And he'd walked over to the salesman and said, "Here's my card. Come to my office, and I'll give you the." Well, I forget how much it was. Was it the whole car or half the car or something that he was paying for?
Yeah, what happened was it was this friend of his that owned the car dealership. It was back when they had Nissan, Datsun. It was like, this is a long time
Yeah,
ago.
yeah, that's yeah.
But yeah, it was a couple that was just getting married, or they'd just gotten married, I think, I think they were getting married in a couple of weeks. And so this guy Mark introduces my dad to him. I guess he knew the couple, the owner, and said, "Hey, these guys are getting married in a couple of weeks, and they're getting a new car." And my dad goes, "No kidding, congratulations." And he says, "I'll tell you what, just pick out whatever car you want, and I'll pay half of it." And he just said to Mark, he said, "Just let me know how much it is, and I'll send you a check over." And
That's
he didn't even know this couple. Yeah, that's just how he was. He was just good that way.
and what's funny about it is you're just so nonchalant about it. Yeah, that's just how he was. Like, he's like the godfather of Utah or something. But I know he wasn't like that, right? But he was just like this amazing guy, and I just love that. That's how we should all be.
Yeah,
Honestly.
and in the new book, one of my favorite stories is he just had a lot of integrity, and he was so honest. And
Yeah.
there's a great story that'll be in this next book, of that I was told by a jeweler friend, and you've got to hear this story. And it just didn't make it in the first two books. We had so many stories, and so we had to do this third one. But he said, "Hey, I got a friend to comes into your dad's office one day, and they're struggling financially. They fell on hard times, and they went into your dad and said, 'Hey, can you take a look at this jewelry? It's the only thing we have left. We it's antique stuff. We don't know how good it is. We know nothing about it. What can you tell us? And do you know anything, or can you help us in any way?'" There we go. And so my dad, looks at. They have this, like, it's kind of like a trunk, a small trunk that they put up on his desk, and they open it and show him. And he says, "Oh my gosh, this is such nice jewelry. This is and how much are you wanting for this?" And they said, "Well, we need about $100,000. If you'll give us $100,000, we'll give you this whole uh, chest full of jewels." And my dad looks at it and says, I think you have a lot more here than what you think. I think it's worth a lot more than that. Let me make a phone call to a good friend of mine who's a jeweler in Salt Lake City, and just stay right. They were in his office. And he said, picks up the phone, calls him. He says, "Hey, Curtis, I've got this couple here. They have this jewelry. I think it's worth more than what they think it's worth. Could you take a look at it?" And Salt Lake was about 45-minute drive from where the office was. And so he says, "Oh yeah, I'm here, Hal. Come up." And so they go up. This couple goes up to visit this Curtis, and he says the jewelry is incredible. It's just worth a lot of money. And he says, "I end up selling this jewelry for this couple." And he says it took about 2 years to sell every piece of jewelry they had. But he says, "I sold it for $2.5 million."
Jeez.
So I think one of the best parts about this story is that after they had received the money, obviously it changed their lives. It helped them greatly.
Yeah.
And
Two and a
they,
half million dollars will do that for most
yeah.
people.
And here they wanted 100,000 for this jewelry. And
Wow.
I, here's the thing. I know that Hal Wing knew that jewelry was worth probably at least 1 million or maybe more.
Yeah.
And he easily could have written a check, right? And said, "You know what? They need my money. I'm helping them. That's all they're asking for." But he
Yeah.
didn't do that. And then I think the best part of this story is after the 2.5 years was over, these this couple comes back to my dad's office with a check for 100,000 and says, "Wow, we really appreciate what you did for us. You helped us out, and we'd like to give you this 100,000." And he wouldn't take it. He just said, "No, you know, I don't
Yeah.
need it, and I don't want it, and I'm just here to help you." And so, again, I know people that would probably have taken advantage of this
Yep.
couple, and then probably justified it and said, "Oh, okay, well, that's all they wanted." But that's not who my parents were, and in this situation, who my dad was. And that's one of the best stories of this book is, and it's a true story that
Yeah.
I found out later, and I'm like, this is integrity, right? So
I love one of the things, and I don't know if it's a story in Giant Success, or I can't remember. I read too many books to remember everything. But the at Christmas, your and dad, your brother, and or who's they would have the envelopes at Christmas.
yeah, my parents, my mom, yeah.
Yeah. Tell that story, just if you would, because people need to hear this. This right, what you're getting ready to talk about. This story right here, just this by itself, is one of the biggest keys to success. But it's got to start inside in your heart. It's got to be there. But go ahead and tell it.
Yeah, my mom was raised in Germany and was very poor. I had one dress that she wore every day, and always wanted a
Jeez.
doll, things like that, and toys, and never got them. But she would she would have one dress that she wore, and then on the weekend she would put on her pajamas on Sunday and wash her dress and hang it out to dry. But during the war, my mom was alive. She was a teenager during World War II, and they would have to go around to farmers and beg for, I mean, even a potato. Now, they had 5 kids in Germany, which is pretty unusual at that time.
Wow.
And so they would go around to farmers and beg for like one onion or one potato, and they would uh, cook this. My grandma would cook it, and they would share it. I mean, that's 7 people with like cut up a potato and an onion, and that was all they could get. So they went to bed hungry a lot. But my mom was so, when my dad passed away, my mom would always call me right maybe a week or two before Christmas and have these little envelopes full of cash. And she had about maybe 10 or 15 widows that were in town. And she would say, the names on them. And she would say, take these to the widows, that, their names, but don't tell them who it's from. But the problem was, is they all knew who I was. And so I know they know who gave it to them.
Right.
But she would do that every year that she was alive. And
Yeah.
so this is something that my wife and I, started doing, that we did this year for Christmas. Is we picked out, so many families that we knew who were needed help, and we would try to do it anonymously. Some we couldn't, and it was fun. We would help people, and we like doing that too. So it's a lot of fun.
I think, there's a common misnomer about people who've built wealth. Those are not rental cars behind Doug. For the record, he owns every one of them, free and clear. Pretty sure you don't finance your cars, do you? But but one of the misnomers about building wealth that a lot of people have is that rich people are greedy and they just want and take and they don't help other people. I don't know any truly financially wealthy people that aren't giving. Now you're probably on a different level than a lot of people I know with money, but because you give a lot, man, you're just like your dad and your mom, and I think that's amazing, dude. But since we're talking about building wealth, let's talk about those cars back there. I mean, come on, dude. Those are
Well,
beautiful.
I got to tell you, uh, about a month ago, I have a lot of church groups that come in here, and they say, can we tour your cars? And I always say, you can tour the car building. You can tour the car building if you let me talk to the boys for 20 minutes. And they're always like, well, what do you want to talk to them about? And I said, if you want to see the cars, then you're going to let me talk to them. And so last night I was at a church event, and this guy walks up. I never met him before. And he says, hey, you don't know me, but he said, my son came like 2 months ago to the car building and took a tour. And this is the dad speaking. He said, when I got home, when my son got home, I asked him, what'd you do for your activity? And he goes, well, we went and toured this guy's cars. And he said, wow, it was quite a collection of cars. But he said, the thing that amazed me more than anything was the guy that owned them said, he said, talking to them, he said, none of these cars matter. They don't mean anything. It's just stuff. And that's part of my message when I'm speaking to these young men, is that someday I'm going to be gone, and these cars will be owned by somebody else, or they'll be in a scrapyard or something. And so
Yeah.
this is not the important stuff. I mean, yeah, I mean, my dad was a big car guy, and he enjoyed them, and I
He
enjoyed
had over 50 cars when he died, right?
them.
Like,
Lots of cars, but about, yeah, between 50 and 60. But yeah,
that's
this
amazing.
stuff isn't important. I mean, it's kind of fun, but it's not what's really important in life, for sure.
Right. But I mean, people love, I really do think that people love to see um, behind the veil of success, and you've and I don't mean just financial success, dude. You're a really really good person, and I think that um, I convinced you to do it from the man cave tonight because I wanted people to see, like, hey, this is, and it's not just about hard work. There's plenty of people that work really 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 hard that never make the money that it would take to own those cars, or even one of those cars in a lot of cases. But I think it all starts with intention and the amount that you give. It's absolutely. And look, um what Jamie says. Doug is one of the humblest, kind, generous, smart humans. It's the truth. It's the
Oh,
truth.
that's pretty nice, Jamie. Thank you. She's way too kind, I think, but
Jamie is very, very sweet. So, I think that I wanted people to see what's possible. So why don't you talk about some of those cars? I think they're gorgeous. People need to see them. Need to know about them. You got a Ford GT sitting there. Is that
yeah,
a Corvette over there next to it?
yeah, the gray one, that's a Z06. That's a really impressive car. A lot of technology in that one. That
Yeah,
one's
they're nice.
they're super nice. They're I can't remember 0 to 60 in like 2.8 seconds or something like that, and uh,
Wow.
they it revs out to like almost 9,000 RPMs.
Jeez.
That's my wife's favorite car. She likes that car. She doesn't have her driver's license, but she likes to drive in it. She's
Has
back.
she been in the green beast?
I can't remember. Have you been in the GT500, the green one? The green one. Yeah, she's been in that one,
Oh,
and but she hasn't ever ridden in the GT. So I think this Sunday we're going to take it out. And
the
that car,
GT.
yeah, the
All
red,
the Ford GT right there.
yeah, the red Ford.
Really?
So I think we're going to go for a little cruise on Sunday. But that car, people get kind of crazy about that car, just because
Yeah,
it's kind of rare and it's cool. But
it's
yeah,
nice.
and the Bronco up there is Heidi's, but you can see it's been up there for a few weeks. She hasn't got her license yet, but she's working very diligently on getting her license, and so she wanted a Bronco, and so
That's awesome.
she picked that one all the way out. And we ordered it from Ford, and it came quickly. We were like, "Wow, that was pretty quick." But
Wow.
um, yeah, I mean you can't really see the green one back there, but that's a GT500, and that one I bought during COVID, uh,
Wow.
and
I've been in that thing. It is unbelievable.
it's
Like
pretty.
I'm serious.
Yeah,
Like I like it's
you were like,
it's
"Whoa."
impossible to explain. It is so fast. Uh,
Hmm.
it's crazy. It's fast. Like
Yeah,
super fast.
but
Then
anyway.
you've got, is that a Hellcat?
Yeah, I always wanted to get a Hellcat because I liked them. I'm not really a Dodge guy, but they are pretty cool. I mean, it's over 700 horsepower, and it's just all that thing does is just spin the tires. I mean, it's just a lot of power in that car, but
Wow.
it's kind of cool looking. And I wanted an orange one. I found one up in Idaho, and
Yeah.
I flew up there, and the salesman picked me up, and then I drove it back, and I got pulled over in Vegas on the freeway.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I didn't realize how fast I was going.
Oh my
I
God.
got to tell you guys a story. Always be nice to police officers because this guy. It took me like a mile to pull over because there was no place to pull over, and I thought, man, I don't want this policeman to get hit by a car or something. So he was following me, and he's following me, and then finally I pulled over, and he's like, "Hey, what took you so long to pull over?" He was kind of a little bit short with me at first, and I said, "Oh, I mean," and I meant it sincerely. I said, "Hey, there was no place safe to pull over, and I didn't
Yeah.
want you to get hit by a vehicle or, and he goes,
Yeah.
really? And I go, yeah, really. And he came back and he goes, I'm giving you a warning.
Oh, did he?
So,
That's awesome.
be,
Dude.
always be, I mean, I'll tell you what, I have so much respect for the police. There's a lot of police. Most of the police are very good. And there are a
Yeah.
few, bad eggs out there, or bad apples, whatever you want to call them. But
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
most part, they work hard and they put
Yeah.
their life on the line and they don't get paid a lot. But anyway, this guy gave me a warning. It was great. The white car. Okay, I got it. There's a story behind that white car, and
Is that the up top there? That's a Porsche.
that's a GT3 Porsche, and that
Wow.
car has a straight six, naturally aspirated, flat six in it, and comes out of Porsche's racing, and it puts out 505 horsepower. That car,
What?
yeah, and that car will do 200 miles an hour, and it's crazy, crazy fast. But when
Oh
you
my
come
gosh.
back out, I'll take you for a ride in that one. But so
You mean
here's,
you're gonna let me drive it?
I don't know, I'll think about it. But those are pretty rare too.
Doug won't let me drive any of his cars. I've been out there. I'm not allowed to drive them.
So here's the story about the white car. I was in, 'in, in, 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 sales for most of my career and sales management, and 'in, 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 ' I went to Porsche Chandler to try to buy that white car. And most of the time I wear a t-shirt, short pants, and flip-flops. And I walk into Porsche Chandler 3 times and was walking around that car for 20 minutes dressed like a bum, right? Which I'm comfortable. I dress like that. Nobody would talk to me. Not one salesman would talk to me. And one time I was there, I took my yellow GTS Porsche in for service and I was wandering around trying, and I saw that car. And then I came in 2 other times and nobody would give me the time of the day. So after the third time, I really wanted that car because I knew it was a special car. And I thought, what if they sell the car to somebody else? So I went back home and I got thinking about it. And I said, I'm going to call the sales manager. And I called him. I said, hey, I'm Doug Wing. You don't know who I am, but I've been in to look at that car 3 times. And
Hey, Doug, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I'm having an issue. I stay on here. If it kills me, I'll be back.
Okay.
Just stay. Keep talking though. Keep talking.
You want me to keep talking?
Yeah, about the salesman. Yeah.
All right. So what happened was I called this guy and the sales manager, and I said, I want that car. I've been in to see that car 3 times, and nobody, your salesmen are making a huge mistake. Nobody will even talk to me. And I said, the reason why is I wear a t-shirt, short pants, flip-flops, and I'm sure they're judging me and they're saying you don't have the money. So he said, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, come down. And I went down there and talked to him. And I bought the car from him, and I gave him a signed copy of Giant Success. And I said, you need to share this with all your salesmen. And I said, if you want me to come and train them and talk to them, I will. And anyway, I got the car. They finally sold it to me.
Did they have you come and train them?
No, he never did. He never did.
You know, I think, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Anyway, so to those who are in sales, some people, I mean, Warren Buffett still drives a Crown Victoria or something, right? And it lives in the same house that he paid like $40,000 for. So some people dress down, some people, are like that. I mean, Jeff Bezos was driving an old Camry or a Honda Accord. I think it was a Honda Accord for a long, long time. And you never know. You can't judge people by the way they look. You just never know.
I wear shorts and a t-shirt almost everywhere I go, almost all year long. Like it's 53 degrees here in Texas. We're going out to dinner here in a bit, and I will definitely be wearing shorts.
Yeah.
That's how I roll. I think that, and nobody would ever guess that I'm a thousandaire. I love saying that. So, dude, Giant Success. And here's my buddy, Tom Chenault. You and Tom need to know each other. Tom is such a really, really, really super successful guy. He's a legend in the network marketing world, like at least in his own mind. I love Tom. I'm just kidding. He is such a good guy. You guys would love each other. But yeah, definitely get Doug's book, Tom. And if you and him and Adrian, his son, do a show, you should be on their show, Doug. Tom, you should have Doug on as a guest. He's one of the best people in the world. But and they do, it's a radio show, like they do. It's big time.
That's cool.
Yeah. So so everybody watching, I want to pop. I didn't have that. Yeah, so those are Doug's books that I just had up on the screen. The new one is coming out. The Giver is Mark Victor Hansen Library. The new Giving Hearts is with Mark Victor Hansen Library. And the first book that Doug did was Giant Success. Unbelievable book. My wife had the honor, and so did I, of helping with that book. And then you even had us come out to Utah and do the the big thing at was it Springville Public
Yeah.
Library?
Yep, my
Yeah,
hometown, the public library.
yeah.
That was a lot of fun. Yeah.
That was a blast, man. I was looking through the pictures of that the other day, dude. Like I took, I don't know, 1,000 pictures probably that day. But that, dude, that was a lot of fun, and everything you're doing is amazing. Everybody should go grab copies of Doug's books, devour them because they are really, really, really good. Tom says I'm chasing him down. So you definitely need to be on Tom's show. You'll love. They're funny. Him and his son are just hilarious.
Yeah, that'd be great. So
They're so funny, dude. So funny. But so what, Doug? What's if you were to give anybody watching, like, a couple, two or three of your top tips to be successful and stay successful, not just financially, but overall, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and financially. What would your top one, two, three tips be?
well, one of the things that I've been to a few schools, high schools and grade schools and stuff like that. And one of the things I always share is if you'll be the first person to work every day and the last person to leave, you're going to be pretty successful because you're going to beat
Yeah,
you're going to beat out about 95% of the other people probably or more.
it's
Um,
true.
the other thing I always talk about with the younger generation is find something you're really good at and you love doing and do that very well. Just
Mm,
do that as just be the best that you can be at that. You know, as I mentioned before, I wasn't the smartest kid in school, but I learned that to be a good salesperson, you had to be a good listener. Number one, you had to be good at building relationships. And then we were very blessed to have good products that were the best. And so those things really helped me as well. Is that uh, I, I had a lot of success, and a lot of my good customers I'm best friends with to this day, and they always tell me, we never thought you were a salesman. You were just trying to help us. And so
yeah.
I think if you go about, whatever you do, if you go try to help people and you care about people and you're honest. I mean, my dad used to say, don't lie, don't steal, don't be lazy. That was one of his quotes that he always had. And another one was, you can tell the customer anything you want to as long as it's the truth. And so
Mm,
these little nuggets like that, if you'll do those types of things
yeah.
and do them often and just treat people, one of the things that I always, some of my customers said one of the reasons why they did business with me is because I responded very quickly too. And so if
Yeah.
someone left me a voicemail or they sent me an email or faxed me something, I tried to respond quickly. And if you'll do that, if you can respond within 1 hour to a customer that
Yeah.
needs price or specs or whatever it is, you're going to beat out 99% of the other salespeople that will go, oh, I'll do that tomorrow. He can have it in a couple days. Little things like that. Just go a little extra and do those types of things for customers.
Yep.
It's going to go a long ways.
That's awesome, dude. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Doug Wing. I'm going to put this up on the bottom there, dougwing.com or halwing.com. Make sure you go over to dougwing.com and there's I'll have to look. I think there's a notification button or something.
Yeah, the
My
new book, I think so.
Yeah, it's on there. That we do all of your websites too. I'm very grateful for that, Doug. Thank you for your business and your friendship. Yeah, so if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see Doug's latest book launches March 5th, 2025. You click the learn more button, put your name and email address in there. Doug is known for people that show up on launch day. He's known for giving away free cars. I'm kidding. That's a joke. No, he's not. He is known for doing some cool things, and we're going to talk about some of the things that we can do as far as some giveaways to help, you know, help people out and get you to number one quickly. So we'll talk about all that. But is there anything else you want to share with everyone tonight, Doug?
Well, I've been blessed in my life, and I never thought I'd write books. The first book, Jeffrey Gitomer, who's how many books has he written? Like 20 or something like that.
18 or 19?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
he told me, you got to tell this story about Little Giant and your dad, and you'll be a best-selling author. And I'm like, you're crazy. And then it happened, and then we had that meeting with Mark Victor Hansen, and we talked
Yeah.
about some of the stories, and he's like, this is going to be a best-selling book. And I was like, you're crazy, Mark. And it happened again. So
Yeah.
it's been a blessing. Uh, I've learned something new as well. And I think you need to keep growing. I mean, I retired but did these books and have done other things and started another company. And it's good to stay busy, but
Yeah.
I'm grateful for everything I have. I'm just so blessed, and it's
Yeah.
been wonderful experience to do these books. And this book's going to be a really good book as well. It's got some great
Yeah.
stories.
And let us not forget that you are newlywed, just over a year now,
Mhm.
and to an amazing, beautiful woman that you have in your life now. So congratulations on that too, man.
She's hiding
Heidi is
some of the cars. Yeah,
she's what?
she's back there hiding behind one of the cars.
But you live a very rounded and full life, and everybody should strive to learn from you, and the best way to do that, honestly, because you can't answer everybody, but the best way to do that is to get your books, like read the books. They're incredible. Giant Success is literally, if you want to learn how to be successful, no matter what the business, or that you, whether you own a business, you work for a business, you're just a human being, you want to learn how to have a better life, read Giant Success, and then go read the next book and the next book. But start there, because I honestly, it's life-changing material, life-changing for anyone that reads it.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, I love you like a brother, man, and I'm grateful for you. So, you know,
Did you get
I'm
did you get rid of all that snow in Texas? I saw that.
dude, there's still this tiny little spot in the backyard. It's like the little spot of snow that thinks it can. Like it won't go away.
I just saw that Gina Tibbetts is on. She
I
was
know. I saw that. Hi,
my
Gina.
she was my assistant at Little Giant. She's so great. She
She's
always
amazing.
she helped me, and I'm technology challenged, and she always helped me.
She's an amazing lady too. We had the honor of meeting Gina. I'm dude. You've been surrounded by some incredible people in your life.
Yeah,
Absolutely incredible.
for
You're a
sure.
blessed man. Yeah. So everybody that shared this out, I mean, we have 140 people on X watching us live right now. Um, and boy, Facebook's blowing up with all four of you watching.
Well, there'll be more on later.
I have a lot of great friends on X. So, but Doug, thank you, man. I appreciate you. I appreciate everybody that shared this out. Thank you all very much.
Thank
Um,
you again. We'll be talking again soon, I think.
we're gonna be live again probably next week, I'd say. We'll do another live stream, talk about bits and pieces. We'll probably do it from your house this time. But I asked him. I said, dude, please go over, and because I just a side story, when I came out to Phoenix, to because you live in
Yeah.
Chandler, is that?
Hmm.
Yeah. And you had all your cars over in Scottsdale, right? At that
Yeah.
car club,
Place.
and
Yeah.
which was pretty amazing. Like but it just wasn't as convenient for you. But you had it in that big car club. How many cars were in that building, you think?
I'm not sure, but there was one guy. There was a guy there that had like 30 or 40 cars, and
Yeah.
I mean, some of these were like, no, Ferraris, and there was guys that had Bugattis and stuff in there. But
Yeah.
I had to drive half an hour each way to get my cars. And but anyway, there was a guy that had like 30 or 40 cars, and I asked somebody one day, I go, "Whose cars are all these?" And he says, "Well, we don't tell, we don't release the names, but he said the guy's in prison." And I was like, "Oh,
Oh,
really?" And so
wow.
who knows why the guy was in prison, but he had some beautiful cars. And then I went back
Yeah.
there, I went back. Sometimes I was there a couple times a week, and I
Yeah.
went back there like a couple months later, and all the cars were gone. And I go, where did that guy's cars go? And they said, I don't know. They just said some guy that's in charge of all of his stuff said we're taking them all, and they moved them to another place. And I was wondering if maybe
Oh,
there was somebody following, chasing them down, like the IRS or something, or the the I don't know, the Fed.
cartel.
Yeah, but anyway, this guy had
Wow.
beautiful cars, but he was in prison.
Wow. Yeah,
but
you can't drive him from there.
but that place, Ken, was $500 a month for a car, and the guy had
Per car.
and he had 30 or 40 cars now. I'm like, dang, I mean, that's a lot of
Yeah.
money.
Yeah. How many did you had 12 over there, didn't you? Or something?
No, I didn't have that many. I had maybe at the most 4 or 5, and then
Oh,
I
okay.
got this building built, and I went back to
Oh, that's right. You had them up in
yeah, and I
Utah.
started driving them back, and
Yeah.
that took like a whole summer, just
And by the way, just so everybody knows, this is only 1/3 of his
yeah.
buildings.
There's another side over there, and then another one, a different building over there, but.
But the one building is just for the RV, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
sometimes,
Yeah.
sometimes the golf cart can go in there too, but that's about
Yeah.
it. It's that one.
Yeah.
So
Pretty incredible, man. You're a blessed man and a good man, and I appreciate you as a friend and everything
thank you,
you've done in my life, man. So
thank you.
um
Please give my love to your wife and daughter.
I
Thank you.
will. I will. Thank you, brother. All right,
Okay,
everybody go to dougwing.com, click on get notified. Tom Chenault, if you're still listening, connect with Doug, get him on your show. Anybody else that has a big show, you need to have Doug Wing on your show for sure to teach your people, the teach your audience. Brian Hess, you should definitely have you on if you haven't been on his show.
been on this
Because
yet, but I know he's
he has the contractors all over the place. Brian's doing 100 million a year now. It's crazy,
he
or
knows about
close
those
to it.
giants. I think they have some. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, he definitely does. And I don't know if you saw the comment, but he paved the parking lot of the LDS church behind his house.
The temple. Yeah,
Yeah, or the temple. Yeah, that's
that's
pretty
very cool.
crazy. Yeah. All right, you guys. Thank you all. Doug, don't hang up on me, but thank you to everybody who watched, shared this out.
Thank you,
Appreciate you.
guys.
Go sign up, or there's going to be some giveaways and stuff we do on March 5th when the new book comes out, some signed copies of the book and all that. So make sure you go to dougwing.com, scroll down a little, click on the button that says get notified or learn more about the new book coming out, and just fill out the form. So, there's Megan Watson. Megan, how are you doing? Great to see you. And we are jumping off. You guys have a great night. Doug, thanks again. Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you, Ken. Talk to you
All right.
soon. Bye.
See y'all later. Stay with me, Doug. Stay with me.